So recently, the Lad Bible released some footage on Twitter of an interview with Rickey Gervais, giving us his so-called informed opinions about big game hunting in Africa and poaching and that sort of thing. Rickey Gervais is a funny character. He really does have... I wouldn't say he's got one of those personalities that I would have said would have been bullied at school, but I can imagine he got punched an awful lot. He's got this sort of smug, self-satisfied kind of aura about him that's really, really annoying. But anyway, I digress. Let's hear what he's got to say for himself.
It's sad that we're going to lose species forever, because once a species is gone, that's it. Extinction is forever. You know, that's it. You're out of the gene pool. It's usually senseless, you know, people killing rhinos for their horns, which is keratin, it's hair. It's got no medical properties whatsoever. Even if it did have medical properties, they better be pretty good, and you still don't have to slaughter a thing and rip its horn out when it's got a calf. Ivory, same. For a trinket. You're killing this magnificent animal for a trinket. There's no point.
Well, strangely to start with, I 100% agree with Ricky here. Poaching in Africa is a real problem. It's and it's made worse by how senseless it is. I mean, if you're buying ivory or rhino horn, it doesn't really have any intrinsic value. I suppose ivory, I guess, is pretty. You know, you can make stuff out of it, but you know, rhino horn's like, you know, it's not worth anything. But it's strange how he doesn't talk about the market that's driving this. I guess that's because that maybe would be politically incorrect for him to talk about the Chinese, because the Chinese are the ones causing this problem. It's almost like quite a backward mentality when you think that what a rhino horn's going to give you a rock hard erection so you can give your wife a good seeing to, or, you know, ivory's going to cure cancer or whatever. But that's what these people really believe. You know, this demand isn't coming from the West. And more importantly, the poaching isn't being done by people in the West either. And that's something else that, because of his own political correctness, after all, he's talking on the Lad Bible, bearing in mind, he won't mention that either, because across Africa, I mean, in places like Kenya, they'll talk about the Somalians. They're one of the biggest problems in terms of poaching. But of course, you know, yeah, sure, there's people all over Africa doing it. But you're talking about African people poaching to feed a market in China. At this point, I don't see this being any responsibility of anyone in the West. But I've got a feeling that there's going to be some mental gymnastics going on here in a moment.
Also, this nonsense, people saying, oh, it's conservation, we're doing good. They're not doing good. They like to kill things. If it was providing a service, we'd be paying them, right? A vet doesn't say, can I pay you some money to shoot your cat with a bow and arrow and then take a selfie with it? They're psychopaths. They like shooting things. It's an absolute nonsense. They like killing things. They like killing it with different weaponry. They like killing different, and they're willing to pay for the fun of shooting someone. Imagine if I went into a cancer ward and said, can I kill one of them, but I give £1 million to all the others to cure cancer? You'd go, fuck off, you psychopath.
Shooting someone. I don't know if that was a Freudian slip there, but I suspect not. This is anthropomorphism 101. It's not someone, it's an animal, Ricky. It isn't a human being. And yes, hunting animals, yeah, this is something I'm going to say now that a lot of people who hunt don't like to admit to because they feel that they're going to be judged for it or whatever. But yeah, I like killing things. I like hunting. So do these people in Africa. They like hunting. And that's part of your humanity. To say to someone who's a hunter that you shouldn't like hunting is to deny your own humanity. That's like saying that you shouldn't like having sex with your wife. Now, let's get real here. This isn't like killing a few cancer patients to cure cancer. Although, let's be honest, that does happen as well. Because some cancer patients are offered treatment which is experimental, which hasn't gone to the mainstream yet. And they've got a chance of maybe being saved by it, but they know that chances are it won't save them. In fact, it's probably going to make their end a little bit worse. But they think to themselves, well, this is my way of helping other people in my situation. I'm going to die anyway, so what the hell? Give me this treatment, run some tests, because maybe my death can mean that this new treatment that is going to help others will come from this and we can save some lives. That is the accurate analogy of people who hunt in Africa. Because these are the Westerners. We're not the ones poaching. We're not the ones shooting rhinos and sawing their horns off to sell to the Chinese. No, we're the ones going there, paying huge amounts of money. That money then can pay for rangers, it can pay for helicopters, it can pay for these guys to be trained in close combat against poachers. In fact, James Yeager recently did a series where he was teaching rangers in I think it was in South Africa, how to fight, because they have to fight these people. This is no joke. They have to fight them. And by doing this, by us paying this money, we're helping them do that. We're monetising nature, monetising conservation. It's all very well being some fat, white, racist pillock like Rickey Gervais, who thinks, well, he should be able to tap black people on the head and for them to ponce around and make a nice little park for him to go and enjoy once every God so many years when he actually goes there on holiday so he can look at the animals. No. Rickey doesn't think that black people should be able to go through the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution and have mass agriculture, killing off all the predators and building cities and roads and all the things that we've enjoyed in the West. No, he doesn't want them to do that. He doesn't think they should be allowed to do that. Rickey Gervais thinks that those people should keep this land as some sort of park, even though it means that their children will starve to death because they're not getting any money for it. And then along come a few hunters, and we give them some money to monetize what they've already got, to say to them, you don't have to go down this road, you don't have to chop down all the trees, plough up all the land and grow crops to feed your family. No, you can actually conserve nature. You can make sure that these animals thrive. And when they do thrive, we will come there and we'll shoot a few of them. And we will pay you huge sums of money for doing it, so you can carry on doing it. Now, these farmers aren't going to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, are they? They're not going to let game hunters come and wipe out the entire population. No, of course they're not. It's a business. It's the real world.
So it's bollocks. It's not conservation. It's rich psychos who like killing things. Fuck them.
Rich psychos who like killing things. Now that sums it up. You know, I've been listening to a lot to Jordan Peterson lately, and he goes into great detail about Marxism, about the birth of Marxism, where it came from. And George Orwell wrote 1984 and Animal Farm and a few other books. And George Orwell was very much a middle-class man who felt he'd got, he wanted to help the working class, genuinely. But what George Orwell discovered over time is where he asked himself the question, was then social justice warriors, the left, because this is all social justice piffle. He said, do social justice advocates genuinely have empathy and care for the poor, or do they hate the rich? Rickey Gervais doesn't care about animals. He just hates the people who shoot them.